This session will be moderated by Mr. James Kim, Chairman and CEO of American Chamber of Commerce in Korea. Please welcome them with a warm round of applause. 모두 뜨거운 박수로 두 분 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
So, good evening, everyone. I know that this is evening for us. We have a global audience, so thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the 2022 Asian Leadership Conference. My name is James Kim. I'm the Chairman and CEO of AMCHAM Korea. And today, I am so pleased to host today's session. And I want to call it the transformation of the aviation industry in the era of the new normal. Before we begin, I want to thank Chosun Ilbo and Ken Choi for doing an amazing job of setting up this conference. He does an amazing job every single year, so thank you, Ken. You know, AmCham represents over 800 member companies, and they are major stakeholders in the Korea economy. We really appreciate our partnership with AOC, and that's the reason why we're always very supportive of what they do here for, not just for Korean companies, but for American companies and global companies in general. And today, I am really honored to share the stage with Walter Cho, who I know is a true leader in the global aviation industry. I also consider Walter a good friend, a good trusted friend, that is. So I really, really believe in him. As his background states, he is the chairman and CEO of Hanjin Group and Korean Air. I can tell you that he is really, really passionate about the aviation industry and expanding Korean Airlines' presence in the global aviation community. In fact, if anyone here had a chance to spend some quality time with Walter, he really, really knows his business. I think that he is considered a true domain expert in aviation, which is the reason why I think this session makes a lot of sense. You know, Walter has been instrumental in amplifying the air passenger and cargo traffic volume between the US and Korea. He has successfully led the company through the pandemic by leveraging opportunities in the cargo business and achieving record high profit in 2021. And when I take a look at his results, this is a true embodiment of Walter Cho as a successful global business leader. So what a special opportunity it is for all of you to get to know Walter and for me to have this fireside chat with him. So without further delay, let's hear from Walter. I'm going to ask him a few questions, and we're going to have a very interactive session, okay? So Walter, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that Walter is very selective about the types of appearances he makes. He is in really, really high demand. So I'm very happy that you have decided to say yes to my invitation. So first and foremost, Walter, I want to congratulate you again on your successful tenure at Hanjin Group and Korean Air as the chairman and CEO. It's been 3 years since you took over. So Walter, how does it feel? You know, it's been an amazing journey for you, so I'd love to hear. How do you feel?
Well, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank James and for inviting me to come into this session. So it's been 3 years since I've taken the position as chairman, following my father, who passed away. Shortly after he passed away, I took over the position. And it's been the toughest 3 years of my life because soon after the tenure, pandemic hit, Corona, and we were just devastated. We didn't know what to do. All the passenger flights were shut down, and but we managed to navigate successfully through the turmoil, through operating cargo successfully and keeping the company profitable. And it's not because what I did, but it's because what everybody in Korean Air did with me. It's been very difficult for everybody, but we've been able to navigate through in the right direction, and it was turned out better than what we expected, and it was actually exciting at the end.
You know, Walter is actually sounding very, very humble today, okay? I've known his father as well. I've known Walter for a long time. Despite all the credit that his father gets, this man right here really knows the aviation industry from the smallest details to the strategic pieces. So I can tell you that he himself, as the new chairman and CEO, have really turned around and transformed Korean Airlines during its most difficult phase in just aviation history because of the pandemic. So Walter, you're always a very humble man, but you should be very proud of the fact that Korean Airlines just recently won the Airline Transport World's Cargo Operator of the Year award. It's a great win for Korean Air, right? This is 2 consecutive years. Plus, you guys also won Airline of the Year award last year. So this clearly shows that you guys are doing something really, really good. So Walter, you also have an amazing set of Korean Airline executives here. So walk us through what is your secret sauce for helping make Korean Airlines what it is today.
So when the pandemic first hit March of 2020, we had to ground all the passenger airplanes. And not many people know, but 70% of the air cargo is actually transported by passenger planes, not freighters. So there was a shortage of supply in the air transport. So we still were operating freighters, even though all the passenger planes were grounded, and we saw a lot of demands not growing around the world, especially in the U.S., where they needed desperately needed medical supplies and masks, for example, and so. It was mostly coming from Southeast Asia and Korea and China as well. So we decided we were operating freighters 100%, 110% actually, and it was not enough to meet the demands. So one of my staff, actually the leader of cargo division, asked me, can we fly the passenger planes empty to one of the Southeast Asian destinations? And, I said, first thought was, that's crazy, because normally when you do that, you lose a lot of money. But at that time, the cargo rates were higher, and then it was better to operate it than just paying for parking fees just on the grounded airplane in Incheon Airport. So we decided, okay, let's try it. So we started with one flight, then it grew to at the peak, I believe it was, we had 20 passenger flights a day and 80 cargo flights a day, which out of 80, 60 were flown by passenger airplanes, empty passenger and all freight. And we did that for 3 years, and we've been breaking records on operating profit ever since. We've been maintaining the supply chain going as best as we can, and I believe many airlines did follow us and doing similar things, and that, although very small compared to the total supply chain, it actually maintains some parts of the world going, especially the emergency products that they needed. And that's how it started.
But I think this also shows the resiliency and the speed of how the Korean Airlines executives, the employees have done to make big change. Obviously, it starts with leadership, which is Walter Cho, his executives, the employees. They move very, very fast to make this thing happen. But also, Walter, let's not forget that your other hobby and interest is volleyball. And your Korean Airlines volleyball team, they won 2 years in a row the volleyball championship here in South Korea. So again, the past 2 years for Walter and Korean Airlines has been what I call a winning formula. So Walter, let's talk about how things have changed a lot. We know every sector of the tourism and aviation industry have been significantly impacted because of COVID-19. We just talked about how Korean Airlines have performed really, really well with consistent performance. So how has Korean Airlines evolved now since the pandemic? And what key factors help Korean Airlines come out on top, do you think? And I just want you to elaborate a little bit more. And what lessons have you learned?
So, COVID hit every airline in the world, and nobody survived. It was tough for everybody. It's not just us, but we in the beginning, our cash flow was negative down to, bare bottoms, because we were refunding all the tickets, and we were short-staffed at the call center because we were getting so many calls about the refunds. So it was very tough. But and people, our employees, they weren't allowed to come to work because everybody was forced to work at home. So work was very slow. So it was very tough. And since all the passenger planes weren't flying, our flight attendants and our crew, they were asked to go on a forced on a leave rotationally, but everybody chipped in, and even, for example, on those passenger freighters, normally when there's a passenger, it's not an issue, but when you load the passenger floor with cargo, even though there's no passenger, we still need flight attendants on it, and their duty was not to serve meal or anything. They were to carry a fire extinguisher, and we asked them to do it, and they actually did. So everybody contributed. So.
We also know, Walter, that Korean Airlines did an amazing job, but not like every airline has done as well as you have. We know many airlines who've actually had to file for bankruptcy, right? Which is something that even you could have done, but you stayed, you fought the battle, transformed your business model, and look at where you are today. So you should be very proud of what you and your team leaders have done for Korean Airlines. So let's talk about some new dynamics going on today. We have the Ukrainian war. We have a lot of economic issues, both in the US, Korea, and globally. We also have the rapidly rising $1 exchange. So there are a lot of macroeconomic challenges that we all need to consider. So given these headwinds, how would you define the new normal for the aviation industry?
It's very unfortunate to see a war going on in Ukraine. It's been going on for over 3 months now, and it's devastating for everybody, including fuel price, interest rate, inflation rate, and also the economy seems to be, suffering a lot from endemic and also the war. So the future is very unclear right now for any industry, but also specifically for aviation, because I know people want to fly, and everybody's been asking me, why can't we just have more flights? But turns out that we want to put more flights in to Europe or US, but the city or the airport asked us not to put it in because they are short-staffed, and we can't increase the capacity right now because of it. And the fuel price, during the pandemic, it was very low. It was started in $20 a barrel, and it averaged out to about $80, which is okay, which is normal for aviation. But right now at $130, it's very it hurts. It hurts our and no matter how many passengers we fly around, no matter how many tons of cargo we fly, it actually hurts our balance sheet. So, and because of the downturn in the economy, we cannot hedge the fuel either. So it's we cannot prepare for the future on that sense.
Plus, when you and I had dinner several months back, you also mentioned that because of the Ukrainian situation, it's going to take a little bit longer to fly from certain routes, right?
Oh yeah.
And again, that adds to some of the cost for fuel, distance.
Yeah. For instance, going to Europe, it takes additional 4 hours round trip, and that's additional $30,000 in fuel price at that time. So it's and it just takes longer. And it's very difficult for connecting passengers because it was not designed for additional 2-hour trip each way. So we had to reschedule all the flights accordingly, and it just affected every flight we have. So so I think back to your question, for next couple of years we're gonna be in survival mode. I mean, probably tougher than during the pandemic, and because the future is unpredictable right now.
But when Walter says he's going to be in survivor mode for the next several years, that's a sign of a strong leader. Because if you see a lot of leaders today, no one's resting easy, even when things are going well. So when you say you're in survivor mode, I don't believe it. That's just your business style. But I know that we're having some additional pickups in COVID cases these days. But I think a lot of us believe that we're in an endemic phase right now. And more countries are opening up. In America, it's pretty open that I see. Europe, very similar. I know in Korea we still have some situations where we have to get tested prior to getting on the plane. But when do you think we're going to go back to pre-COVID travel for all of us? Do you have a crystal ball?
No, but I don't know if we will go back to that phase because the customers' demand really changed to airline. And not just airline, but everybody, because they want more sanitation and more. So everything has to be in a higher standard than pre-COVID, especially with safety as well. So we're looking at a new era of how we travel. I mean, before, a lot of the airlines try to pack in as many passengers into the same plane. Now they might want a little more travel space. And, before a lot of people travel in a tour group, now they're probably looking at individual travel a little more. And and instead of traveling in a bus, they will probably want to go on individually as a family or with friends, in a smaller group. That could be the new trend, I think. And so,
But I tell you, I traveled to the U.S. A couple of months ago, and for me, it almost seemed like travel was back to the normal. I know that you talked about safety, all the precautions that your team does, but at least as a passenger, I almost felt like, yeah, I'm flying Korean Airlines. Still really, really good service. Still good food. So for me, I feel we're back. So let's hope that it continues on that path. Walter, a lot of companies these days are focused on ESG. And I know that you and your team are. So what activities are you doing at Korean Airlines to foster ESG? And when I talk about ESG, we got environment, we got social, and we got governance, right? And I know you're focused on all three of those areas, but if you can comment on one or two of those, that would be very, very helpful.
well, ESG is very important for any airline, but especially for us. So we have a committee of experts working on the strategies for it, and especially on the cutting down on the emissions as well. And we are replacing quickly into newer, more fuel efficient aircraft. We have close to 90 aircraft on order right now, which is new generation, which burns lower fuel, burns less fuel, and produces less emission. And even at this point, our emission level is lower per passenger kilometer compared to the industry average by about 25%. But we're continuing to lower it. And I'm also on the board of IATA, which IATA is pushing for zero emission by 2050, and we are very supporting and also actively involved in that project as well.
Well, with ESG being very important for a lot of countries and companies these days, I'm glad that you guys are really committed to ESG with some specific goals. And as I meet with many of your executives, I know they are committed on it as well. So let's continue having Korean Airlines lead that part of the phase. Walter, what you guys do at Korean Airlines is so important for business. As you know, I hosted the New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, this morning, and he talked about how important Korean Airlines and the other carriers were in fostering trade and business between New York City and South Korea. And also earlier this year, AMCHAM did a survey about Korea in Asia. And what we found out as a result of that survey was Korea is now the second most desired country in Asia Pacific to set up a regional headquarters. Only Singapore is higher than Korea. So I tell you, Korea is going to be an amazing, amazing place for more business, which means it's very, very important that we have Korean Airlines continuing to do more, add more routes. So, Walter, you have obviously, studied abroad. You know a lot of the different cultures. So what do you think are the advantages of a country like Korea that make it a top contender to be a regional headquarters or a good business destination here in the region?
Well, Korea is a very diverse, exciting place to live. It's a small country, but not that small. And we have many activities going on. It's a very safe environment. We have very tight control laws, and it could be a very attractive place for foreign companies to have stationed in Korea, because it's not just the economics of it, but it's just an exciting place to live, and a lot of diverse culture as well. Geographically, we are very close. We are in the middle of Asia, and we are in very close proximity to all the economic powers. So it will be I think it's a very Korea has a very great advantage in hosting those kind of things.
During my many get-togethers with Walter, we talk about so much passion and excitement about Korea. And I can tell you, just because of the job I have, we have more senators, more congressmen, congresswomen, governors, all visiting South Korea. The reason why they're visiting South Korea is because they want to facilitate more business between Korea and their states. In fact, take a look at the mayor of New York City. He participated in this forum today because he wants to promote more Korea, New York City opportunities. We recently hosted the senator of Florida, Senator Scott. He said the same thing. Senator Ossoff from Georgia, huge Korean population. And again, he talked about how Korean Airlines is so important to enhance that opportunity. And I know that Walter, you met many of these folks as well, right? And you can see that excitement. So they're all looking at you to have more routes, make it more affordable, right? So you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think right now, as I said before, we're in survival mode, so I don't know about too much expansion. But yes, expansion is part of survival. So we have to continue exploring new possible destinations around the world, and part of it is acquisition of Asiana. We're in the process of it, and with that, it will be the hub for all of Asia, and we could strengthen our position as a global carrier, I think.
Well, I think that after the successful acquisition of Asiana, the combined carriers are going to be the 10th largest carrier in the world, right? And as the 10th largest carrier in the world, I think it's going to add to the flavor and the significance of Korea as a country. So how is the progress going with the merger, and are there any challenges you're faced with? Anything that we can do to help you?
Well, in the beginning, I thought it was going to be a walk in the park. It would be very easy. It's just changing the name, but it turned out it wasn't. It was a little bit harder than that. But now we are back on traction, and we are on pace, and we have 7 out of 13 approvals already finished. We still are waiting for US, EU, and UK to name a few left. But we're going on pace. We expect to have results shortly, probably no later than end of the year. And when all the approvals are in, we're going to start the integration phase. We're going to merge the 2 companies into one, and that part's going to be tougher because Korean Air and Asiana was totally opposite of each other. They always did the opposite things, so it will be culturally, it will be very difficult to merge the two companies together. All the integration is a lot of work, but we expect about 2 years after the approval for the integration, and so total of 3 years later, we'll be into one company flying under the same colors and same wing. And by then, I think we'll be the largest international carrier in Asia, Northeast Asia, and we'll pursue to have a better experience for the customers and in flight, and also through the network as well.
Yeah, because once the combination is completed, as a passenger, and I know a lot of businesses use Korean Airlines for cargo. I think what we're hoping for is more convenience, more flights, more flexibility, and just ultimate better service. So is the combination going to make a guy like me feel very good about it? Or am I going to feel constrained?
Yeah, just give a example, quick example. Korean Air flights to Los Angeles, our biggest destination all over the world, in the world. We have 2 flights. Asiana's flight leave 10 minutes after ours, both of them. They have 2 flights too. But after the merger, we'll have it separated. So you'll have 4 different time slots to go to LA, depending on your schedule or your requirements. So same thing with other destinations around the world. I mean, Korean Air and Asiana always fly in the same time slot. So, you only had one choice, basically, every day to fly to that city. Now you'll have 2 different time slots where you could have a choice, either separated from each other. So you'll have more diverse choices when you're traveling, which would be more convenient for you. And also, a lot of the destinations we flew, Asiana flew as well. But when we totally combine together, we'll have enough capacity to expand to other cities where, it was not possible before, but now we could do it because we have more capacity into it. So you'll have more destinations, more frequencies, more better schedule for everybody. So I think that's could be advantages for all the flying customers.
But Walter, I think the audience, I'm sure they have some curiosity on this whole merger discussion with Asiana. What happened, Walter? You get up one morning and say, "Hey, I want to buy Asiana." Walk us through, what happened. Did someone call you and say, "Hey, you want to buy Asiana?" Or you wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I want to buy everything."
No, so I was still in survival mode. I didn't know what was going to happen. That was September of 2020. So we just posted a profitable second quarter in July, and that was good. And third quarter was looking better, but we were still in survival mode. We didn't know how long the pandemic's going to last. We didn't know what other cargo carriers will do. So we were just doing that and trying to figure out how to bring the employees back who were on a home leave. And, I was outside my office window, I see like 30, 40 parked planes. And I was wondering, when are they going to fly? And I was still wearing a mask in my office. But then one day, the bank calls me and asked me if they wanted to meet me. So, I thought I was getting called in to get yelled at for, when are you going to pay back the loan we took out? But it turns out they asked me if I wanted to buy Asiana. And it kind of hit me by surprise because I didn't expect that question. And at first 10 seconds, I didn't know what to say, but it only took me 10 seconds to say yes, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. not for my greed, but for the employees of Asiana, because they were probably devastated because of watching us be profitable, and they weren't. So and we negotiated very quickly for about 2 months, very hard work, but around November we signed a deal for the acquisition, and for me it was I had to do it because it was if I miss that chance, I'll never get it back, and I think that was a very big decision on my part, but I think I'm still confident about that decision I made.
And plus, whenever I read some articles about that, you really believe that the combined companies would be good for the employees of both airlines. It would be good for Korean travelers from here to other countries, and for foreigners to come to South Korea. So I really hope that your vision of having a combined, Asiana Korean Airlines is good for everybody. And I think as long as you could demonstrate that to the regulators, I really hope that there would be smooth sailing. So I wish you a lot of success on that. Okay. So moving on to some other aspects, we are all talking about digital transformation, and companies across all kinds of industries are investing in AI technology. So for your business, are you using AI or other types of technology to enhance the functions?
We use AI to try to predict the demand for the travels, as well as we use contactless and touchless technology in the airports and throughout the service, and also AI in our call center as well, just to reduce, improve the experience the customers are having. And I think after the pandemic, people will ask for more of the contactless and biometric kind of technology in the airport. So for faster service and contactless service, and basically more convenient. They could check in before they arrive in the airport and walk right through the gate, without delays, especially during the heavy travel season. That will be very convenient. Like, for example, boarding passes, we still use paper because it's required by the airport and authorities, but we're moving quickly into paperless through your smartphone or other, which something that you could print out at your home before you come to, so you don't even have to go to the gate. And it's very common in other countries, but Korea has been a little slow on that because due to a lot of regulations. But we're coming to that phase where we are in the process of transforming into that kind of new technology. And we're expecting a lot of expansions in that kind of technology in our company, and for in the future.
And I think with Korea being a true technology leader globally, I think you're in the right country to create a lot of new R&D, new innovative products and technology. So I hope that that's another way in which Korean Airlines can set itself up for more success. Plus, I like the partnership you have with Delta. I know Delta has a big stake in Korean Airlines, and Delta and Korean Airlines, and Delta is a very important member company of AMCHAM, along with Korean Airlines. So I hope that both of you guys can work together to make this pie and technology a lot bigger. The other area that even I started learning about Korean Airlines is your aerospace business. Isn't Korean Airlines the only one that has an aerospace business in this industry? And if that is true, Can you share your outlook on aerospace?
Yes, our aerospace division started building fighter jets and maintenance for U.S. Air Force back in 1976, and we've been continue doing that. And since early 2000s, we started building composite body for airliners, and we've been building on that. But and also we've been contributing to a Korean space program as well, and the previous space program. And I think the future for the aerospace division is on UAV and UAM. So we are in the part of a group that's developing the UAM currently with other companies, and Korean Air is focusing on the transport and controlling systems of the UAM, not the UAM itself, or but which is a very vital part of the UAM environment. So we have to develop it in a global standard, not Korean standard. It has to be a global standard we have to meet, and we're going to be focusing on that because we're basically the Korean market is too small, and we have to grow into global. So that's where our focus is right now.
And I think that Korean Airlines is clearly a very, very global company today. In fact, of all the executives here in Korea, you're very, very unique. You speak fluent English. We have been all over the world, and it makes it very ideal for you to run an airline of this size to compete globally. In fact, one thing I'm very excited about Korea is under our new president, President Yoon, we have Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. He speaks fluent English. Every meeting he has with global leaders is done in English. Take a look at Foreign Minister Park Jin. Again, all his meetings are done in English. So again, these two leaders, along with Ambassador Cho, the Korean ambassador to U.S., they all speak fluent English. So that embodies the global spirit, which is why when I introduce Walter or we go to some meetings together, he can do any meeting in really, really good English. It's a powerful dynamic. So Walter, you guys are in cargo, you're in logistics, you're in passenger, you're in aerospace. Any other businesses that you're looking at?
Well, Hanjin Group started with my grandfather, and he always told me, don't do what you don't know how to do. And so he never went beyond the boundaries of transportation. And I mean to stay the same. I'm not going to do anything, start anything that I don't know. I learned this industry for 20 years, and I'm a bit confident about what I can do on this airline. So I'm going to focus on this, grow the airline, and if I have to do any more growth, it will be probably in the same industry, aerospace maybe, which is key thing I'm focusing on right now. Is sometimes acquisition is better than trying to grow yourself, because so that's what I'm looking at right now as well.
And I think he just talked about focus and really doing what he knows best. And as I said before in my original introduction, I've known Walter for some time now, and he really, really knows his business from bottom to top. And that's why I have a lot of confidence with Walter. So Walter, we're talking about the new normal era now. How do you define key success factors for global airlines during these, as you said, survival mode or tough times? Any word of advice? Besides staying humble.
I think you have to grow. I mean, you cannot stay the same size or same capacity and expect to survive. I think survival is growth at some point. So explore new destinations, explore more fuel-efficient aircraft, and ultimately acquisition too, because a lot of the companies probably won't survive in the next 5 years. So that's a big opportunity for growth, and I think that's a good way to do it.
And I think offering, great service. I'm a million miler in Korean Airlines. I've always had very good, experience. So let's hope that continues. Okay. But just in closing, I know we have a lot of the younger generation, either online or here in person. They all want to be like you, Walter, one day, right? Do you have any word of, advice for the youth? What they should do to really be like you one day?
Be like me.
I wasn't joking because you really run a good airline. Look what you've done the past 3 years. You're humble.
Well, when I was just joined Korean Air, my father always told me to go places and go there, see it for yourself, experience it, and learn it. And my first job was in procurement, so I probably traveled to Boeing 30 times a year, and in 30 times in 3 years I was there, and I met people. Went to the factories, watched the plane get built, and also to Airbus as well, and I went to all the suppliers of seats, engines, and everything. I go there, learn how it's done, and I'm fairly confident about my knowledge on the aircraft right now. And now I have the capacity to talk to their CEOs of aircraft manufacturers face to face, and they don't see me lightly anymore because I have the knowledge. So I encourage people to go places, experience yourself, because it's a lot better than trying to learn it by Zoom. Because I've been in Zoom meeting many times during the pandemic, but meeting them face to face is a lot better. And learning face to face or learning as an experience is much better than just watching it on TV or through the screen. So, yeah.
Well, for the young generation, I hope you got a good takeaway from Walter to really focus on the business, get the details, show up, and travel, right? Travel on Korean Airlines is what he's saying to you guys, right? So again, I know that our time is up. I want to thank everyone for viewing this program. Very special to have Walter Cho with us. He does not do this a lot by design. So the very fact he's here, it's an opportunity to really showcase his knowledge. So Walter, I want to thank you very much for doing this. Okay?
Yeah,
and I wish you a lot of luck with your merger. And I hope that your airlines continue to grow. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Walter.